Hello, everybody. Welcome back to the Gateway Podcast. This is episode 41. So, for those that are new, the Gateway Podcast is a one-on-one podcast where we talk about our guests' journey with Starcraft and video games in general. But of course, like any podcast, we're free to wander wherever the conversation leads us. I'm your host, Necro, and today I have another special guest. He is basically my reference point when it comes to StarCraft 2 observing. In fact, he just got done observing the quarterfinals of the IEM Katowice 2021 today. So today is Saturday, so tomorrow, Sunday, will be the semifinals and the grand finals. So I have the honor of getting to talk to him today and pick his brain about some stuff. It is Mapu. How's it going, dude?
Hello. It's going good.
It's going good.
How you doing?
I'm doing pretty good as well. I basically watched all of today. There was some crazy games, especially that last one. You were telling me just before just before now, that you needed kind of a break after that one. That was a crazy series, Clem versus Zest. Yeah, what did you think about it today in general? Did you have any favorite series or games or anything?
Yeah, like today was a really interesting day in general for the IEM stage. Like there were a lot of results where you think like, okay, this makes sense, but the games itself, like the strategies, were very interesting. And I mean, Reign of Dark was like insane, right? That series was pretty nuts. Maru Rogue was like really interesting. Finally seeing Maru demolish Rogue once once in a while.
Yeah.
And then TY parting was basically just crazy, written on a whiteboard.
Yeah, exactly. I feel like all of them had their own unique flair. Whereas Dark versus Raynor, it was all about that history of how Dark would always beat Raynor in high stakes situations, but now Raynor finally wins. Rogue Maru, they were former teammates, right? When you're teammates, anything goes. You never know who's gonna win because you don't know how the practice is going on. But now that they're not in the same team anymore, I think Maru can finally bust out some stuff that Rogue has never seen before, and that's maybe one of the things that contributed to that. And then you just had Zest versus Clem, which was the most random shit I have ever seen. Even the casters weren't really sure what to do. Are those your kind of favorite games to cast? Those games like on Pillars of Gold or maybe Oxide, Clem versus Zest, where just nothing makes sense? Or do you prefer kind of games that you know where stuff might be? I don't know.
I like the ones where I don't know, where I get surprised too, right? I love those ones more because it's just interesting. It's like a journey for everybody. Like the casters go on a journey, the observer goes on a journey, the viewer go on a journey. So it's like new for everybody. And like the Pillars of Gold game especially, it was just so random. So you didn't really know, okay, what's coming next? Everybody was like waiting in anticipation. What's going on? What's happening next? And how's the reaction of the player, right? Because Clem was like, if you look at the camera, you could see the player cam. He was like flustered basically the whole time, but he was actually in a decent position the whole time. So he probably thought like, oh my God, this is not going where I want to. Maybe it was like a mental defeat there for him in a little bit. But yeah.
Man, yeah, those, because when you're observing, you always have to kind of think ahead. And obviously it's a lot easier when there's a normal kind of state of flow. Sometimes there's some Raynor Serral games, or there's some Serral versus other Terrans like super high level, but things on the map make sense. So there's still like a way to kind of anticipate where things are going to go and what you want to show. But then there's these games that are high level and there's stuff all over the map for no reason. So yeah, you definitely have to be on your toes. So are those the games that are probably the most exhausting, is just those crazy games?
Yeah, it kind of is, because obviously you don't really know where the next point of contention is gonna be. There's like no clear system to the game really, so it's kind of rough. You need to focus more. Basically, you need to watch the minimap way more to just don't miss too much, so you can basically show everything you want to show, everything that's important. And it can be really tough on those games which are so random, because there's like no clear structure. In a standard game, I know like, okay, I've got my 3 base set up. I know there's gonna be 2 prongs coming in from the Terran in like 3 minutes. He's already sending the medevacs out, and the Zerg is like moving out on the bases on the map, and he's probably gonna struggle to defend. So I'm gonna show that, and then show how the army moves. And there's a lot of planning that can go into this, but those random ones like Clem, Zest, I don't know, man. They just kept fighting over and over. And
yeah,
It was like random widow mines everywhere, basically.
Oh yeah,
Super
how many
weird.
SCVs died? Like 130 or something like that. That was absolutely
around
nuts.
about 130.
Oh my god, I can't believe it. Yeah, going back to Clem real quick, he does look flustered a lot of times. I think that's just part of how he reacts. I don't think that affects him that much actually, because he does tend to stick it out until the very, very end. He doesn't like premature GG or anything, right? So he does stick it out a lot. So I do think he does do a lot of faces, but I think that's just his natural gut reaction. I actually don't think that it affects him that much over the course of the game. Maybe in between games, but I don't think over the course of the game.
I kind of agree that he definitely sticks it out, but it feels like he felt a little bit off, to be honest. Like his micro, his splitting wasn't definitely not that what you were used to see from him. Like 15 to 20 minutes into that map, like his splitting against the last couple storms were just awful, and that's something he's usually like super on point. So I don't know, maybe we just got a little bit different opinion there, but yeah. I agree that he definitely he was like, credit to him for like dragging that game so long. I would have left after 10 minutes.
Oh, for sure. Yeah, I think there might have been some mental exhaustion too, because the more chaotic it is, even for the observers, like it is for the player, it gets really hard to follow what's going on. So I remember around the end there, he had maybe a chance because he had one ghost in production. I was like, okay, maybe if he has 3 ghosts, that's 3 MPs. All the Archons kind of melt, but he only got 1 ghost out, and that ghost didn't even land an EMP. It just kind of died, even though he easily could have landed it. And I think he just had some like mental exhaustion by the end there, because he just was not able to control his army as perfectly. But I mean, everything is so delicate at that level and with that amount of chaos, for sure. Did you have any predictions for the rest of the tournament? I'm curious.
Let me have a look. Actually, Reina, Maru, and Parting Zest are gonna be our semi-finals. Honestly, at this point, after today, really, like after seeing the matches, the games today, I've got no prediction anymore. It feels just too random. Zest felt really random how he won, right? Like he's a force to be reckoned with, but the way he wins is always like it's like a complex riddle you don't really know the answer to. Like, how does he win those games? But because he shouldn't really.
And he plays. I was gonna say he plays such a different style of Protoss as well, where you're not really sure what you're supposed to make that much. Because one of the kind of metas right now was kind of Colossus and Disruptor, but he didn't make a single Disruptor that entire series. That was probably by choice, but like his army was always changing in between fights. At some point it was Mass Zealots, then he went into Storm, then there was kind of a lot of Stalkers with Colossus, and you're like, what am I supposed to make against this guy? It's crazy. Zest is super unpredictable in his strategies, the ways he plays, but it's always so strong and so sharp. It's super scary. I think he's the scariest player. I think he might win, actually.
I think he's the scariest player too, but honestly, like, he's matching up against Parting, and Parting is kind of the same brand of Protoss, right? He's super random as well. He feels like even a little bit more decisive than Zest at sometimes, but he also overextends, makes a little bit more mistakes than him, right?
Yeah.
So I really don't know what to make out of these two there, but Zest historically has been incredibly powerful in PvP, and Parting... Well, his matchups have always been like PvZ, PvT more than the other ones, so maybe Zest has the edge there. Maru Reina is really interesting. Like that's gonna be a slugfest.
Yeah, I don't think that matchup has happened too often. I can only really recall when Reina faced Maru in like 2 or 3 years ago in GSL Code S when it was Reina's debut. That's like the last time I remember. Maybe they had a best of 1 in somewhere or something like that. But yeah, I rarely recall Maru versus Reina, so I'm really curious how that's gonna go.
Yeah, I don't think they have ever matched up at such a high stake game.
High stake
semifinal.
No, yeah, for sure. Maru's stone cold. I don't think he's gonna get I don't think he gets tilted by anything, honestly. He can nuke himself, which has happened, right? And he doesn't really tilt, so that's totally fine. Actually, fuck, I just thought about this. Yeah, because you remember that time where he nuked himself against Parting, right? I think was it against Parting?
Yeah.
I think
I can't remember.
There was a massive game on Isynchrome. I think it was versus Parting in GSL, where it was like a 50-minute game on Isynchrome, and it ended with Maru accidentally nuking his entire Viking fleet, and it was like the reverse Solar basically.
Yeah.
I don't know if do you ever watch like GSL and other competitive StarCraft, or is your experience of StarCraft pretty much when you observe?
No, no. I usually watch whatever I can watch, especially the bigger ones. I used to grow up on GSL basically
Yeah.
in 2010 when the game just came out. I already was there and watching GSL. It was my bread and butter, so to say, at the
Nice.
beginning. But like recently, it's a little bit rough for me because I've got a kid now, and with that, it's a little bit tough sometimes to get the free time, just to sit down and watch some games.
Yeah, and the time zone too. I don't know, because you reside in Germany right now?
No, actually, I live in Japan, so GSL time zone is basically prime time for me.
Yo, I actually wait. I went into your stream at some point, and I think I heard you talk with your wife or something, and I was like, "Is that Japanese? What? How did?" Okay, we might actually go off on a tangent. How the hell did you wind up in Japan? Actually.
Well, that's a very long story, to be honest, but I don't know, man. Where do we want to begin?
I don't know. Was it like for a job or anything, or I don't know if you can summarize it in like 10 minutes or something.
Okay, so basically, I always liked Japanese language for some reason. I watch a lot of anime, so I took interest in that, and I really enjoyed the like the ring of the sound basically of the language. So I used to visit Japan basically once a year, from when I was like 22 or 23 or something around then.
Okay.
So I went like to Japan once a year, and I started to understand the language, and then I started to travel on my own, and just like go random into bars and talk to random people and stuff like that.
Oh, wow.
And I don't know, it was really fun for me here in Japan. So eventually I met my wife. She's Japanese, and I went over here because it was easier for me to move than for her at first. And now maybe we're gonna move back to Germany, but that's kind of what we wanted to actually last year, but Corona kind of made a
Yeah,
Corona
happened. Yeah, say no more. As soon as you say Corona, it's like we understand what's happening. I think the whole world kind of does. I think one of the awesome things about learning another language is that like you're just interested of like the culture, and just by default it's like, well, I kind of want to learn the language now as well. And like just going to Japan, I assume actually the times where you went to Japan is probably the times where you improved your Japanese the most. Would that be the case, or?
Yeah, kind of that. I mean, it's way different if you only have that language around and you kind of have to respond and know what they're talking about. So yeah, I mean, I never really learned it. I basically just picked it up from watching anime. I had like vocabulary basically, and then I went here, and whenever I was here for like a couple of weeks, I would just go out and try to talk to the Japanese people in Japan in Japanese. So it was like, a kind of trial thing.
Yeah, for sure.
But it worked out beautifully. So now I'm almost fluent, like normal language I can do.
Wow.
I just went like a month ago or 2 months ago. I went to the tax office basically on my own and made my tax there.
Wow, that's awesome. I know there's like also several, because there's like the conversational Japanese, but then there's also like formal Japanese, which is something else completely. I know there's like a lot of stuff to learn in Japanese, so the fact that you can just start learning Japanese in like your early 20s and be, basically trilingual. I assume you don't know a fourth language, but it's possible. But it's because
I learned a little bit of French in my school days.
Okay, well that's my first language, so that's.
Je ne parle pas français.
Damn.
That's about it. Now I understand a little bit of French, but not too much.
All right. Do you still practice like Japanese daily? Do you watch? Maybe you still watch anime like without subtitles, which is the dream actually.
My wife is Japanese and she doesn't speak English nor German, so we have to communicate in Japanese. So basically, yes, every day for me is Japanese.
Oh wait, so is your kid just gonna speak Japanese, or?
No, we were just he's like 1 year and 4 months now, so we're just I'm talking German to him, she's talking Japanese to him. So we hope he picks up both.
Oh man, he might actually pick up like English too, because depending on what he likes for sure. But like
Yeah,
But yeah, that's
That-
kind of
I mean, but that's up to
crazy.
him, right?
for sure, for sure, for sure. I've heard a lot of like parents that sometimes have one language, like they have their native language, and then they have one language where they communicate to each other with, and then so there's 3 languages in total, and then the kid just by the age of like 6 just knows 3 languages, and it's super broken, but that's really cool. I really admire people that like not only just know several languages, but like learn some over the course of their lives, because like when you learn them when you're 3, that's kind of cheats because that's just how the baby brain works. But when you start learning a new language, like in your 20s or something like that, that's like really impressive to me. So that's really cool, I find. All right, well, I think we condensed that Japan story as much as we could. Going back to Starcraft, I'm actually so curious. Do you play Starcraft?
Yeah, but not much right now.
Mhm.
I used to play a lot, like tons, but right now with my kid, I can't really commit to like 20 minutes, because if I start up the game of StarCraft, I want to win. I don't want to leave
Yeah.
when I need to, because I need to go away for like 5 minutes or something,
Mhm.
right?
Let's say
So when
you rewind like before that. Let's say like 2018 or something like that, right? Were you playing a lot of StarCraft on the side? Because obviously when you're observing, that's your job. You consume a lot of StarCraft. I'm actually not sure if you consume so much StarCraft that you don't even want to play. Like I wasn't sure. I was curious.
Yeah, it's like it comes and goes in phases, right? I never really stopped playing it, but I play a lot of team games, like 2-on-2 specifically. I've got a couple of people who I like to play with, and we always like used to come together sometimes to just play some team games here and there. I never really played too much one-on-one actually, and I think I've got like 150 leather games or so on one-on-one.
Oh, okay. Yeah. So it's mostly team games. That's interesting.
I've got like several thousands of team games. But
I mean, there's 2 types of people in this world: people who 1v1s and people who do team games. Kind of. I have a lot of friends that love team games too, and it's a dynamic that to me feels overwhelming, because if just 2 people just gang up on you, I'm just like, well, what am I supposed to do? I just kind of, yeah, it was definitely that's my thing. But the thing is that I think I just tend to 1v1 so much more, because whenever I watch like IEM and stuff like that, I just get so pumped to play 1v1s. Like I don't know how to not want to play StarCraft after watching like such good StarCraft too. I should get really inspired by that for sure. Is there any casters that you love to work with? Because I remember watching your interview with Zombie Grub. I think this was like 2018 or something like that. But she mentioned something about kind of the observer being a third caster. I do know that like it does feel like you're part of the caster desk kind of in a way. It's just nobody can see you. Is there any like casters that you love to work with whenever you observe games?
I think the one I probably work best with would be Roddy. And then I really love to work with In Control. And like I had my favorite combination basically just working with them was In Control and Maynard. Like in DreamHack 2017, they really in Austin. It was just amazing there, and there was so much fun working with them there. I like working with everyone in the industry really. Sometimes it's a little bit rough at first when you start out with someone new, but at this point I got basically used to everybody's casting style. Everybody has their own style, so you kind of need to adjust as an observer as well.
Exactly. Yeah.
And still though, I think like Roddy is the most fun to cast for me personally.
I do catch a lot of those Roddy shouting you out. Like he keeps going like Mapu's trying to show us here. I'm sure you're like smiling or that happens, because like it's just so fun whenever the caster kind of references the observer, I think. But yeah, dude, Roddy In Control, that's no, it was a Maynard In Control you mentioned. That's a lot of testosterone in one caster duo. Oh my god, that sounds so fun.
That was super funny. Basically, In Control was just making jokes, and Maynard was just sitting there laughing.
just the whole time, yeah.
But it was so funny.
Oh man. What's like one of your favorite feelings when observing? Because I only did this, so in context, I've only observed like professional StarCraft once, because I only got the occasion once. It was with Nathanius and Fear Dragon in Montreal, and I got to observe like Neve versus Scarlet, and obviously there's some adjustments. Like I had to get used to how I think specifically Nathaniel's how he likes to cast, because I kind of know Fear Dragon quite well. But it's so fun whenever you're like watching an engagement and you're like showing something, and then the casters comes together, and then the victory screens happen, and then the production like flips to the players and stuff like that. Do you have any favorite moments in observing or feelings?
Favorite moments? Yeah, I like I keep coming back to that 2017 Austin DreamHack. But honestly, there was like the crowd there was really amazing for me. Just sitting behind the stage, and whenever I showed like that was basically the Disruptor era, Disruptor Tennis and all the Disruptor on Bio, all that kind of stuff against everybody in every matchup. And it was just it's amazing to see, right? Disruptors, if they connect with like a clump of units, it's just like and the crowd was just so amazing there, and everybody was screaming and shouting, and like feeling that energy was just so humbling in that moment. I was like, I'm so moved. I think actually during the games observing like actually the people reacting to what I show them was really a reward for me at that time. That was basically probably my most favorite moment ever of observing.
Yeah, because you're at your computer, you're showing a disruptor ball, and then all of a sudden you feel the ground shaking, and it's like, holy shit, I'm causing this. This is so cool. Yeah, you get to,
that was basically what it was.
Yeah, you get to show something, and then people react, and then I guess that's got to be an amazing feeling. Because like when I did the thing, it was just closed studio. There was actually no crowd, and this was pre-COVID too. It was just a private studio where they would set up a thing. But having a crowd there must be so cool. Let's kind of rewind back to more of the beginning. What was like some of your favorite video games like growing up? Because obviously when you started playing Starcraft 2 or observing Starcraft 2, this was in the 2000s era. I mean 2010s era. What kind of games did you play as a kid? Or is there anyone that sticks out like it's a favorite game or stuff like that?
Okay, so the first game I ever bought myself with my own pocket money at the time was allowance, so to say. It was Age of Empires 1. So that's quite some time ago. I really enjoyed basically a lot of strategy games at the time. I played Age of Empires 1, 2, Starcraft Brood War, Command and Conquer, Red Alert, the Red Alert version. And those like basically for like a couple of years, 2-3 years, only those games, but I only played AI because we didn't have internet at that time. So I didn't really get any good at those. And then once we had internet, I kind of shifted over to like some shooters, Counter-Strike and Diablo 2, some hack and slay there. And then once it progressed a little bit, like World of Warcraft came out, was released, I kind of like, that was my first RPG. So I was like, maybe, but it was like a lot of money at the time for the monthly subscription. I was only 15 or 16, so basically I got a year late into that game, and then it was kind of my first RPG, and then man, this is amazing.
I mean, to this day you still stream World of Warcraft whenever you do stream. Seems to be kind of your,
right now
your main second game at this point, I think.
Currently it's basically just the classic part of World of Warcraft, which I enjoyed just because I did not finish what I wanted to do back in the day in vanilla. When I started playing, I was a little bit late to the party, so I was basically 1 year late. So I kind of had a lot of unfinished stuff there, and now with vanilla being almost over, finally I got like everything I wanted to do in the game. So I'm basically through the game. I'm more looking forward to the Diablo 2 re-release later this year, hopefully.
I can't wait to play that, mostly because, spoiler alert, I have never played Diablo 2. I'm actually too young. That was generation just before me. I was kind of more of the when I was really young, the newest Blizzard game was Warcraft 3 at that point, which is like 2002, 2003 or something like that. So Diablo's
3.
So like Diablo 2 was like 5 years earlier. I would have been like 4 years old. I've never played that before. So I'm really excited because most of the people I've had on here kept saying Diablo 2 is just one of the greatest games of all time. So I kind of really want to play that for sure. I'm really happy that they announced a remake for that. What is it about? Because at first you were a lot into RTSs, right? You were pretty much immediately into like Age of Empires,
Yeah,
Command and
yeah.
Conquer, and stuff like that. What made you latch on to World of Warcraft so much, which is such a different type of game? What is it about like kind of WoW
Basically,
that you like so
yeah,
much?
basically, I already played Warcraft 3 at the time as well with friends,
Yeah.
like the team games here in Starcraft. I played those already in Warcraft 3 with the guys, and my brother came one day and was like, "Hey, there's this game coming up, and it's like basically a strategy game moving into an RPG setting." I was like, "What? I can be the unit I used to control. I can be that dude now?" And that kind of amazed me a little bit, you know.
Yeah.
So basically, there the base is already RTS again. And I never really stopped playing, specifically Starcraft Brood War. I kind of continued all the day, like through all times. Oh, and I always played Age of Empires when we came together with for Christmas with my brother. So I never really went away from RTS. So it was always like I always wanted to keep playing RTS, but I didn't really have anyone to play with. Oh, sorry.
Oh. Yeah, so you didn't really have anyone to play with, so you would kind of just play World of Warcraft. Because basically, what I understand is kind of Warcraft 3 kind of transformed into World of Warcraft whenever.
Yeah, that was kind of the idea for me, and that was like what amazed me about the game, basically. Yeah.
Oh, yeah, that's awesome. What do you is there? Because I played some Warcraft 3, but I've never really played World of Warcraft ever actually. Is there any? I don't know. I don't even know what kind of question I want to do. Are you Alliance or are you Horde guy? Do you play everything? Do you have multiple characters, or I don't know?
At this point, I kind of play everything or played everything, but I used to start out as Alliance. The thing though is for me, like, what amazed me as well, I saw a broadcast back in the day of that game, and it was like a 40-man raid. So I was like, you get 40 people together and kind of organize them and do something in real time together with that huge of a group. It was like mind-blowing for me at that time, and that really got me into the game. Like where I wanted was like, I really want to play this now, and then I bought it. But at the time, the shown character was Alliance, so I made an Alliance character too.
I see. Yeah. One of the things I also assume always keeps World of Warcraft so popular is that I think the developers always keep adding more and more stuff. So just one huge continuous kind of storyline. Is that kind of how it is, or?
That is kind of how it is, but for me personally, that's like the game changed a lot, really a lot over the years. I played basically almost every of the extensions, a little bit at least, but it never really was as much fun as the vanilla version, which they re-released like a couple years ago now, I think.
Okay. Do you kind of play it because it's so different from Starcraft in a way? Kind of it gives you kind of a break, or do you just play because I don't know, like you particularly really like it, you would play it anyway? I don't even know what I want to do with the question.
I mean, like, I probably know what you mean. Kind of, yes. It's nice to have something that's not like to take your mind off, basically. Starcraft can be very intense, right? So you can sometimes stress really out about Starcraft, but you can't really about World of Warcraft because it's just a slow-paced, like kind of relaxing game. And Starcraft is really fast-paced, and whenever you make an error, it's like, oh, what the hell did I just do there?
Yeah.
You know?
No, yeah.
You kind of start to drown yourself into self-doubt and all that kind of stuff once you do too many mistakes and all that, and like it can feel bad basically to play Starcraft because you know, like, oh, I was really good, and then you fall into a slump, and then it feels really bad all kind of a sudden. But it doesn't really at World of Warcraft, so it's like something to take my mind off actually as well.
Yeah, it's just something really comfortable in contrast to the really stressful, fast-paced action of Starcraft. Yeah. Kind of jumping topics real quick. Where did you get the name Mapu or Mapufa? I think for long.
Yeah. Now it's only Mapu. But yeah. So, do you want a short story or long story?
Oh, long story. Go for it.
Okay, so basically when I was like 12, 13, one of my classmates went to Italy, Rome, on a field trip with like a choir, is it how you say it? Like the music and stuff?
Yeah, choir, yeah.
like with instruments and stuff. So they went there, and there was like a Christian choir or something. So they went to the to see the Pope basically.
Oh God. Okay.
I mean, I don't think they
Shit.
met like face to face, like, "Hey, Pope, how's it going?" But I think they attended like some kind of ritual, whatever there, and you know,
Mhm.
whatever those Christians do.
Mhm.
I'm not one of them, so I don't know. Okay, so that guy went to Rome, Italy, and they were there with their group on a field day, and it was a hot day. They were just buying some ice cream and chilling on a like a plaza, and there was a spring well. And then suddenly there was this old guy, like 60 years old, jumping into the well and screaming, Mapufa, 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 and just jumping in a circle.
Okay.
And that's where the name came from.
What the hell? That's so random.
Yeah,
Okay.
it is.
And you were like, huh, that must be like my name, or like did that? I assume
Yeah,
that
so
became
it
kind
became
of
a
a.
running gag first, right?
Yeah, that's
And
what I
in our
assumed.
friend
Yeah.
group, and then we had like LAN parties at the time, so like I just made my name that thing, and everybody was laughing, and I was like, "Yeah, man, that's awesome."
Yeah,
It kind of stuck.
I assume it became like a meme within your friend group. Does it mean anything, by the way, or
I have no idea.
maybe it means something in Italian? I don't even know. Hold on, let me Google translate Mapufa. I want to see if anything comes up. Hold on. And then what did you No, it doesn't mean anything. It's just random nonsense apparently. And what did you shorten it to Mapu? Was it just kind of like it was a Mapufa at first, but then just Mapu was more
Actually,
catchy,
yeah,
or
I think I already used it playing Counter Strike, and then for some reason it always like people called me Mapu, so I just shortened it to Mapu.
oh, okay, yeah, people just call you Mapu. Yeah. All right, that's pretty damn cool. There's also actually let's go into another kind of longer story here, because you touched on a bit on a little bit with Zombie Grub in your interview like a couple of years ago, but how did you actually, like, now we can take the time, how did you actually like really start observing, and how did you kind of and just like your relationship with TakeTV and stuff like that, how did that all kind of come about?
Yeah, so if I go like really far back, basically at the time of my life, I was kind of finishing up my studies on university for archaeology, but it's like something in Germany where you can't really, it's really tough to find a job. And I had a girlfriend at the time, and we kind of we're talking about like moving together, but in the end, it kind of we parted ways because I didn't really have a job. So I was looking for opportunities at the time. And I kind of went away from university. I never finished my studies, basically. I have like a half-finished bachelor degree.
Okay.
I took like half of the final exam, basically, and passed that, but I never took the rest. I can still finish it if I want to, but yeah, that just aside. So I was looking for opportunities, and I went into something very different, like media designing. And it was so stupid. It was just cutting paper, basically, and it was kind of silly. I thought it was like more digital designing on a PC and stuff. So I kind of quit after. It was an apprenticeship I started, and in Germany you have like 3 years apprenticeship, and then you like become the full-fledged designer or whatever. But I kind of quit after 3 months, and I just sent out emails to TakeTV. Is like, here, I'm here, I've got time, I want to do something for you guys, like I want to become an intern there, and how's it looking? And it kind of worked. I went there for talks, and then I was like, yeah, okay, we're gonna come in, you can come in.
Yeah.
And there it kind of started. So I started out in the vault, in the cellar, basically downstairs. And I basically did what I did just before in my apprenticeship. I basically made T-shirts for them.
Oh, okay.
I think that was the reason why they took me, right? Because they needed someone to make the T-shirts for them.
Oh, okay.
And I had experience in that.
Yeah.
Because I was working there for 3 months on my apprenticeship. So
Okay.
I kind of went down there and was doing all the prep work for all the home story cover and stuff, for all the ticket buyers and players and whatnot. And always a shit ton of work.
Yeah, so you were just staff. You weren't like interning to maybe do some observing. You were just like interning to do some staff stuff
Yes,
for the
yes.
event. Yeah. How did you end up in front of the PC observing though?
Yeah, so at that time, Home Story Cup did not have an observer. So
I
was
think
like,
they still
hey,
don't they? Or do
well, I am basically doing it
yeah
these
as
times, but
okay.
not for the current ones.
Mm.
Which the online ones I'm not involved, but the offline ones I'm doing all of those.
Okay, yeah.
But yeah, so I was like to the guy who was managing the event at the time, I was just like, you guys don't have an observer, just give me a PC, I'm gonna observe for you. And he's like, is this gonna make the show better? And I'm like, yeah.
Yes.
And he's
oh
like,
my god, yes.
Okay, but let's try this out first at the TakeTV Penthouse party, which is the first version just started at that time. So we did that, and was my first kind of event observing, and yeah, apparently I did well enough. So I ended up doing the first Home Story Cup, or my first Home Story, which was 14, 15, around somewhere.
I think it was for 14 when I looked up earlier. Yeah. What year was that though? I have no idea what year though. I know which Home Story Cup.
That was 2016, I'm pretty sure.
Okay. Yeah. So after that, did they just keep hiring you to observe or?
So basically, I was lucky. It was a time frame where Coca was not. He was going to Korea to study, so he did not have time to observe Nation Wars, which was also just coming up in the January 2017.
Yeah.
So O Gaming kind of wanted a new observer there because Funko is casting.
Yeah.
So yeah, and they were like, hey, there's this guy from Home Story Cup. Maybe we can hire him. So I got hired there, and it was basically my first paid gig. And then it kind of went on to IEM, kind of needed an observer as well. And then I just moved up really quickly from Home Story Cup, Nation Wars, IEM, and then DreamHack needed a guy because Funka had like some personal issues at the time, family issues, I think. I don't want to go into depth, obviously, but he couldn't attend. Basically, so there was another chance for me in DreamHack Austin, I think it was at that time, the first one that year. And I kind of just went from there and was always hired as at least number 2 with Funka alongside, and then eventually it kind of shifted. Funka went more into casting, doing other projects, and I went more to become the main role, basically.
Yeah, I remember Funka being a lot into observing, but I think ever since you came in, it's almost like he can just start casting, because you can kind of tell that he really likes casting with his O Gaming buddies, so I think he kind of prefers to be in that role. And obviously, I think, I don't know if you said this or who said this. I know I said this in like my quick video, but it's basically impossible to observe nicely and also cast at the same time, so obviously he can't do both. But is there any other like observers that you think are really good? Because to me, I think you have the cleanest and nicest observing right now.
Well, thank you.
But but is there anyone like before you came into observing? Was there anyone you were like, oh, his observing's kind of really core, or you took tips from?
I think like 2 people I admire still are basically Funka, because like right now, if you would throw him into a pit and like observe, he probably would be little bit rusty, but give him like 3 days and he's gonna be as smooth as he was always.
Yeah.
And the other one is Shine from the GSL. I think he has a really great style as well.
There's some. I think GSL has had several observers. Some of them are really good, and I remember some of them being really bad. I have this memory. I don't know where it's from. It's from somewhere in Korea, but I remember there was an observer who was using the borders of the screen to move. I lost my mind. I was like, who let this guy observe? This is not possible.
I haven't seen that.
I don't. It stood out to me. I think it was a Korean match. I don't think it was GSL. I don't think they would let something like that in. It was maybe like a pro league or something like that. But I remember some observers in Korea are either gods or they're terrible. But yeah. Yeah, Shine's really cool.
Might have been a cast observing, actually.
Oh, maybe for sure, actually. Who knows? But yeah, is there any way you would define your style of observing, if there is such a thing, I guess?
Oh, that's a really tough question.
Because you're
asking me.
Yeah.
I think every observer has a style, but I have never really thought about what would be my own style.
Mm.
You know, I've never really thought about it in an analytical way.
Mhm. I mean, I think in terms of just the techniques used, camera wise, I do feel like you tend to favor a lot more still shots. So unless there's a fight going on, you tend to not really drag the screen as much, trying to just go for, okay, we're looking at this. Now you click on the minimap very accurately, by the way, and then we look at this exactly. You tend to not want to move the camera because I think every time you move the camera, there's a certain jagginess. I feel like you do tend to prefer still shots. Would I be correct in saying that, or?
Yeah, most definitely. So it was not always the case, but like in the very early stages, I experimented a lot. But nowadays, I really prefer still shots because I was thinking about, okay, how can I improve back at the time?
Mhm.
And I was looking a lot of, I mean, if you just watch television, right? If you just watch
Yep.
normal movies or stuff, there is like action scenes might seem they're moving, but actually it's the pieces that are moving inside the scene usually. The cut does not move as much.
Mhm.
Like the camera actually, it's like a lot of shots, but they're kind of still. So I kind of tried to implement that logic into Starcraft. Obviously, it does not match one to one, so you need to adjust because I don't have like in a dialogue, for example, on the television, you have like shoulder shots from each of the person, right? I can't do that in Starcraft. I can't
Mhm.
go like from the other side. Basically, I can't change the perspective. The
Mhm.
perspective is fixed.
Yeah.
But I try to still do like, okay, this is what I see as player, as the blue player, and this is what I see as the red player, and kind of this is where I set up, and you know, I kind of still try to make the contrast between the two players, how they look at the game, and those I think in still shots are easier to observe or easier to view for the experience. Also, it
Yes.
kind of looks cleaner
It does.
for
Really
the
does,
viewer than if you just move around a lot. Because if you drag too much, it kind of feels like, you know, you don't really know what you're looking at.
Yeah.
Really.
I think
Sometimes.
there's a lot of I really love what you're saying because I think there's a lot of similarity between techniques that you use for observing and techniques you'd see in kind of like movies or television. Whereas a lot of the time it is just still shots and then just stuff moving within that still shot. When it's when you're just kind of dragging too much around, it just kind of feels like the cameraman is not really at the right place at the right time and he's like trying to adjust himself. So yeah, there's definitely that feeling. And honestly, I didn't realize this until I started observing. But yo, clicking on the minimap is really precise. Like the thing is that whenever I click on the minimap, I tend to always be just a little bit off because it's really small. I do think you probably need a bigger monitor than what I do, but because
Okay, so
I observe
yeah,
from a laptop, but like after I keep having to
I see.
readjust my camera because whenever I click on the minimap, it's not quite as accurate as I want to. But yeah, I don't know if you have any other takes on observing.
That's true. I try to be as accurate as I can because, like for me watching as well, if you have an observer who goes into a new shot and he adjusts the camera like a little bit, it feels a little bit weird. It just feels strange, especially if this repeats like each shot. It starts to feel weird, and that's something I try to avoid. So even if I'm not as accurate as I want to be, sometimes I still leave it sometimes there because it still shows what I want to show, even if it's not as centered as I wanted it to be when I clicked, but it's still good enough to get the shot, and it's better than moving the camera because that's where this kind of lingering feeling starts, where you think like,
it's not clean.
Why is the camera like, basically whenever you move the camera in a drag, you pull the attention from the viewer away from the game into the moving camera.
Exactly.
Because they're like, what is gonna happen? What's gonna appear? And that's something which you kind of want to avoid as much as you can.
You want to, exactly. One of the things that I remember talking about is that like observing is all about making sure you stay in the immersion. And there's a couple things you really got to do. One, you got to make sure that the mouse is almost never visible. You have to make sure you don't drag too much because then you remind the person that someone's like dragging, right? You want to it's about like looking at the game, and you got to remember that it's a spectator sport as well. You want to make it look as natural as possible, so you have to try not break immersion. one of the things I hate, as soon as I see a caster do this, I just close the stream. I can't handle when someone boxes something. Oh my god. There's a green box on the screen, man. I'm gonna go crazy, man. Why did you do that? Oh my god. Yeah, I totally feel you. But yeah, as long as the message is comes across. I remember there's this couple of shots that happened. I think it was the Zest versus Clem game on Pose of Gold, because that was kind of crazy. But sometimes you would click on a minimap, and there would be something moving, and you would be just a little bit off. And it wouldn't, well, I mean, you wouldn't be centered is what I mean, but you would still see like the stalkers moving off screen into a certain direction, and that's basically what you wanted to show, right? So, but you didn't drag the camera, you still left it there because it still conveyed the message, even though it wasn't like perfectly centered, because I knew I would probably would have readjusted and it would have looked not great. But
yeah, like this setup right now is the most challenging I've ever worked with, because I'm in Japan, controlling remotely a PC in Poland. So I have to the observer PC like almost 300 ping, and that really feels rough,
god,
honestly.
wait.
And the thing is, sometimes it like pixels up a little bit. So minimap is already tough to see, right? And then imagine a pixeled up minimap. It's impossible to see sometimes. So this is really a new setup, which is like, it's possible, and I think I'm still doing decently. But it's something where I need to adjust a little bit on my own style to kind of make it fit more into you know, the tools I can work with. Yeah,
I was thinking about it too. If you're like from Japan, you have to control a PC from Poland. I never thought about casting with like 300 ping. I think you'll probably get away with it as long as you kind of see what's coming, because we kind of think in advance, right? So you can kind of adjust a little bit. But for sure, in chaotic games, like 300 ping must be kind of rough sometimes. But yeah, do you have like a big monitor or like a big mouse pad or a big kind of workspace? Because I remember Fear Dragon, he was telling a story about you where you were observing something and you had the tiniest room to put your mouse on, and yet you somehow still observed. I don't remember what event this was, but apparently you had a super small workspace. Do you remember what that event was, or if that happened several times actually?
And that happens a lot of times, actually, unfortunately. Where like observers are usually fighting for, you know, even a table that is straight at first, and then a monitor that shows the game properly, and then a PC that can actually handle the game.
Oh my god.
So yeah, there's usually a lot of things where I mean, now it's gotten a lot better. Kudos to Heyoka. Shout out to him. He's someone behind the scenes managing a lot of Starcraft, and especially this year, I think he does all of the ESL Pro Tour, managing wise. And he picked up on that, and he's usually nowadays like just saying, okay, he's like basically boss of production and talent and everything, right? So whenever something, like when production sets anything up and he's like having a glance over the observers, he's like, okay, we need a good PC here. Put that trash out and give them a decent chair to sit, you know.
Oh my god, not enough credit. Because like, if you want to have a clean drag, you probably need to have that around like 10%, I assume. I mean, I have it at 20 because my workspace is tiny and I need to move more, but like, I assume like you need a lot of space if you want, you know, to have really smooth, you know, dragging for sure.
Yeah, if I can, I try to go as low as possible, but around about 10, like sometimes 8 is where I try to go to with the setup right now, for example, which I have like a lag on my mouse as well. The 300 ping is on the mouse cursor as well, so it's really hard to drag, so I have a little bit speedier. I'm like using, I think, 15% right now. But
15 is pretty much like the maximum, I think, threshold.
Yeah,
as of 20
you don't
gets
really want
really
to go too high on that.
20 gets already at 20. It's really sketchy. But yeah, probably 15 and under. Probably 10 is the best. Yeah, but if you can go lower, if you have the biggest fucking desk in the world, then go at 2. I don't care. It's probably something like that.
I also have a pretty low mouse sensitivity in general. Kind of like when I started to think about settings for computers and games, I was playing a lot of shooter, so my mouse setting kind of comes from shooter, right, where you want to have Counter-Strike. Basically you want to be able to aim well, so you want to have a low sensitivity. So I've got a very slow mouse speed in general, and then a slow speed for the scrolls that makes it very smooth, but also you basically sacrifice speed for smoothness.
Yes.
But
exactly.
if you have the anticipation, you can do that.
Yeah, it's all, if you can anticipate stuff, it doesn't really like you can actually gain speed just by knowing exactly what you want to do next. And I do know that like observing, it's a lot more. It's a lot less fast than playing StarCraft, but it's really precise. As I said about like clicking on the minimap, like really precisely is really important. Dragging at the right place is very important. When you want to click on a unit, sometimes when on a unit that's moving, that's really difficult. Oh, every time I have to click on a speed Zergling, oh my god, that's not possible. It's so hard.
I have to right now. I have to click in front of the unit so I can select.
True, yeah, and of course you do not want to make the box because otherwise you're going to hell, right? We don't want to box the Zergling.
I mean,
so.
I use boxes and the cursor as tools sometimes when I want to show. Okay, here was a spire, for example.
Yeah.
You know, the spire that was cancelled, and I just box the area where the spire was set before, or the cursor you can use like to point out things on kill count, for example, or upgrade tabs or whatever, you know. But yeah, usually you try to hide those big boxes is a no-go, big no-go.
for sure. But sometimes when you want to click on the Zergling, you really have to follow it. It's like, I gotta click it, or worse, clicking it in advance in front of it. But
there's a small trick to it. You can box from basically, which feels unnatural for a lot of people, from bottom right to top left. So you kind of box under your mouse cursor. The box is shown under your mouse cursor, so the cursor hides the box and nobody sees it, but you have like a small box. You have like a little bit of leeway to work.
Yeah, exactly, because the box overlay goes under the mouse. Yeah, I haven't thought of it that way, actually.
Yes.
That's actually a really neat trick, I'm not gonna lie. I was actually watching some I think it was Pro League earlier, because I wanted to find that observer that was doing some crazy shit, that was doing some terrible stuff, is what I mean. But I think I ended up on observer that basically all he did this was just instead of boxing stuff, he would just use his mouse, which wasn't the smallest setting, but he would just use his normal size cursor to just, if he wants to point out something, he would just circle around it with his mouse. So he would just click like on a screen, and then it was like in a Protoss main, and then he would just circle both Stargates individually, and then he would go to the mineral line and he would circle the Dark Shrine with the thing instead of boxing. I just found that so funny. I don't know why, but yeah.
That feels weird. Yeah, I agree. If you want to circle things, it should be overlay things, in my opinion, not the actual game things, because like the overlay is basically your domain where you pull the strings, all of them. So that is something where you can emphasize on. But if you go too like without it being weird to the viewer. But if you go too much like circle around a Stargate or something, I mean, if the casters are like talking like 7 minutes about how a Twilight could be possible, and there's 2 Stargates already there, and you're showing them, but they just don't pick up on it. You can do.
Yeah, it's more for the casters, actually. Yeah, for sure.
You have to be very desperate in that situation.
Yeah, sometimes. Yeah. But yeah, for sure, circling around the production tab and the and that is like way better than circling on screen. You're trying to not be on screen, because on screen is supposed to be the StarCraft, and you're supposed to, you know, kind of show other things. Oh man, I lost my train of thought. I had a question before this, but oh right. Do you still like ever like rewatch your VODs, or do you ever watch other observers? Is there still stuff you still look to improve, and how do you improve them actually?
That's a very good question. From time to time, yes. Usually it comes with the challenge of the setup, I guess, or the change, like in recent days specifically, because, you know, no offline events right now, so all of this delay is kind of really challenging for an observer specifically. Like all the timings you have for the casters are off, all the stuff, like even you have a delay in the game, for example, as I have right now, which everything feels kind of off, but you kind of need to make it work. So right now I'm mostly looking at timings, I guess, and trying to really emphasize on that, trying to improve in that aspect, like where can I time better, where can I like time the cuts better, where I want to cut to, which area of the map, what part, what is gonna happen next. So it's really tough, but yeah, I sometimes watch my own stuff, but I guess not as much as I used to be. I'm always up to like anything I see from other observers where I think, oh, there's something I want to do. For example, what I really loved from GSL when Shine was observing, his cuts were really clean, and he has very clean adjustments. Those I really like if you drag after a cut, do a small drag, a small decisive drag basically is what I like to call it, into the direction where you want to go. And that doesn't feel weird as much as if you have like, I'm dragging this direction, I guess.
Yeah, I guess I'm trying to show the Hellion, but like it's really fast and it's like I'm dragging way too far now.
Yeah.
Oh, never mind. Yeah. Yeah, having really clean cuts is probably one of the most difficult, but I think probably one of the most useful things to get down immediately. I think when you're observing is just can you click accurately? Can you show something very cleanly, very nicely centered, and stuff like that? Yeah, and dragging, you got to be as smooth as possible. The worst thing is an observer that like is like just observing that's kind of jagged, and you don't want to feel like you're in a replay or you're just going over like just a random match like in a custom game. You don't want to feel like you're in a custom game watching, right? You want to be like, we're putting a camera over these two players.
You want to watch basically a TV show, right? That's what you want to watch.
Exactly, yeah, for sure. Oh, I guess we can kind of round out with this. There might be a couple of things, but obviously you've been to quite a few events, and you probably do interact with after the event or before or in between. You probably do interact with some players, some casters, or stuff like that. Do you have any like really good friends that you've made over the years just by being at events and like meeting players and casters and stuff?
I like with the casters, we usually come together after each evening and just hang around in the lobby and drink beers and have food together. So like all of them really feel kind of like, Ohana means family.
Yeah.
All of them kind of feel like family, really.
Yeah.
It's like especially the casters are the people who you just work like non-stop with together. So and you gotta be a team, right? You don't want to just work with them. You want to be a team. So yeah, I guess like kind of all of them really feel like very good friends to me.
Were you ever because you kind of came into the scene. Well, I mean, you've been watching Starcraft for a long time, right? And then you came into this really into observing like 2016 and on, I guess. Were you ever starstruck by any players or casters or anything like that?
I guess in the beginning, kind of like when I first met TLO, for example, I was like, hey.
Oh my god, it's TLO for real.
Yeah, and I misspelled his name. I was so embarrassed at that time. I was like, I'm a big fan, Darius, and he's called Dario.
Yeah.
I'm like, oh my god.
Yes, that's from League of Legends or something. But oh, that's funny. And do you remember who the wait? It was the first TakeTV event was the Penthouse thing, right?
Yeah, the Penthouse Party 1.
Do you remember whose casters you worked with at that event? Like, what was like your first kind of experience?
Oh god,
with those?
Who was actually? I'm not sure actually.
Oh, no.
I think we only did a German stream.
Oh, okay.
I'm not 100% sure.
It was just with
I
Take
think
or something.
I worked with Naruto, and I don't think. I'm not sure how much Take did actually. I think he was there a couple days, but in the first one I don't think he was there all the time. I'm not 100% sure. Actually, it's been a while.
Oh, Cyril won that one. Cool.
Oh yeah, that was one of his first kind of tournament wins, really ramping up.
True. Yeah.
I think Hero Marine did really good there.
Hero Marine was in the finals. He was in the finals against Cyril.
That was amazing. Hero Marine came all the way from the lower bracket. He was like dropped really early in the lower bracket and was like, try hard. Okay, let's go.
Yeah, I think he got dropped. Wait, did he get dropped immediately? Yeah, he got dropped immediately by Cyril 2-1, and then he went to lower bracket, and then he climbed all the way back. But same thing. Hero Marine has been playing insane for the past 2 months. I don't know what he's been drinking, what he's been eating, but he's been playing some crazy StarCraft. Obviously, like Maru didn't really go his way, but I think he showed that he can play really good games. I think he even in a very recent ESL Open Cup, he did like 3-0 climb, and I was like, what? How is this possible? I think he like 3-1 Raynor as well. I can't wait for all the
Yeah,
Europeans
Hero
to
Marine is
go
one of
crazy.
the players I talk a lot with.
Mhm.
I kind of he kind of is everywhere basically, so we
Mhm.
meet a lot, right? But
Yeah.
just by natural default,
Mhm.
and he's one of the players I'm in really good terms with. And
Mhm.
to me, it feels like I've been watching him a lot, right?
Mhm.
So since he was basically starting to get on the scene already as a fan, I was watching him, and to me, it feels like he has the skill. Right now, he lost tomorrow, right?
Mhm.
In a round of 12. I think he has the skills to keep up, but I feel like him specifically against Koreans, he has a little bit of a mental block there. I think he
Mhm.
knows like he should be good enough to win those games if
Yeah.
he gets in the right positions.
Yeah.
But sometimes his mental block kind of strikes there and it's like, but it's a Korean Terran. Who am I, right?
A little bit. Yeah, I do think so. Cause like cause he can beat anyone. He's beaten, Rainer. He's beaten Clem. He can beat like Showtime like quite easily, and stuff like. I mean, not easily, but I'm just exaggerating. But
Yeah.
every time he goes up against a Korean, it does feel like he's just not used to getting to that level. I still remember. I don't know why I'll never forget this, but I think it was a home store cup maybe. It was Hero Marine when he was like 16 years old, and he wasn't really known back then. And then he would go up against Innovation, and everyone was like, "This is the biggest stomp of all time." Like Innovation basically smurfed on him. He made like 18 Hellions just ran through his front door, and Hero Marine couldn't do anything. And now I see him like all these years later, and now he's facing against Maru, and he had the most dominant performance in game 2 versus Maru, and I was like, damn, this guy's come pretty far. It's pretty cool to see. Um,
He has become incredibly good, yeah. But yeah, I think like that might have been actually the thing, right? Where his like a little bit of a mental block comes in, like it's a Korean Terran. They have the most prestige in the world, basically, as the
mm-hmm,
most micro intensive people in the
mm-hmm,
world, kind of.
yeah,
So it's like him being there, like who am I to beat those? But actually, I think he is on that level and he can beat those people. He just doesn't do it as much as he could probably.
yeah, yeah. I think if there was more opportunities than the local
That might be true,
region
yeah.
ones, maybe he would eventually get over that slump. Because I do think probably Hero Marine looks at Maru as kind of like not his idol, but it's definitely one of the Terrans that he looks up to, and he's like, oh, I'm gonna try and see what builds he's doing. Okay, he's playing really really good, but it's like now he's actually playing him. It's like, well, who am I to like kind of beat the person I'm basing how I play on, or so there's
I
probably a
mean,
little bit
the
of block
meme
there.
play like Maru doesn't exist, just
Yeah,
out of thin air, right?
no, for sure, for
It's
sure.
something really big, and I think that kind of is something that Hero Marine specifically struggles with sometimes.
Yeah.
Unfortunately for him, but I think he had a really good run, all considering.
I mean, th- it's one thing to play like Maru, but when you're playing against Maru, he plays the most like Maru. So what are you supposed to do, kind of? But yeah, I do think he'll get there. He'll get there one day, and I do hope. I wish he's gonna win one day. I do hope foreigners. m- I do hope that other people other than Cyril and possibly Raynor could eventually take over, and start beating Koreans like more consistently. The level is getting absolutely insane, by the way, in StarCraft 2. I don't even understand how they keep getting better, but it just keeps on happening. It's actually insane.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah. Yeah, and you mentioned here like you pretty much always hang out with the casters and stuff afterwards. Is there any stories, or have you ever made friends with like players? Because you might not hang out with them as much, but I'm not sure. At like events.
Yeah, like a little bit, I guess. I mean, I'm really if I I, I don't know, man. Am I supposed to say names?
Oh, I don't know.
You know, it feels bad for. I kind of start to feel bad for anyone I forget.
Oh no, it's fine.
But there
It's
are a
fine.
lot of players, obviously, you
Yeah.
interact with as well, and
Mm-hmm.
like, I mean, if I had to say some names, some
But
are
basically,
kind
like,
of special, like
mhm.
a Harstim, for example, who is
Mhm.
always like the mascot of Home Story Cup,
Oh yeah,
and
for sure.
obviously he interacts a lot of with the production as well and stuff. So
Mm-hmm.
it's just natural you see him a lot more there, and
Mm-hmm.
I guess like for me personally, from the Koreans, for example, Zest, I'm on really good terms with.
Oh really?
Even though we can't really speak to
Uh-huh.
each other because I don't know Korean, he doesn't know English.
Yeah.
But I have like a little bit of funny story there actually when he won his first home story cup.
Hey.
If you want to hear that
Oh,
story.
go for it.
Okay, so after he won his first home story cup, I'm not sure if he ever was to a home story cup, but at that time he got hammered. He had so much alcohol at the time.
And that's classic
And-
home story cup.
yeah, that's the thing. So he won that. He got so hammered, and he just passed out on the couch, right?
Yeah.
And there was some unnice scenes after that. Like, you know, I'm not gonna go into details. It was just himself. But yeah, it wasn't really the best after win feeling, I guess he had. And he just passed out eventually, and we had to get him back at the hotel. And at that time, I think we were all celebrating, like jumping in circles and shit, you know, just like forming big circles, jumping. And I just hit my foot on a couch, and it was like a metal piece. So I broke my ankle actually at the time.
What? Okay. Smart.
So and 2 days after that, or 1 day after that, 1 day after that, I was scheduled to go to Shanghai for the IEM in Shanghai at that time.
Oh my god. Okay.
So that was fun. So I went with a crouch to Shanghai, you know.
Wow.
But yeah, I hit my ankle and I kind of broke my ankle there. So yeah, but the thing is, how did we, you know, what do we do with Zest now? So somebody had to bring him back to the hotel. So there was one more guy from TakeTV who is always. He is not TakeTV staff, but he's just like helping out. He really loves. He's a big fan. He really loves what TakeTV does, so he's always helping out. And him, me, and Daishi, if you know him, the French Terran player.
Yep.
We kind of carried Zest home to his.
Damn, he was.
Daishi was like
man.
leading the way, and I was like with the other guy from TakeTV. We're just like each one on the shoulder, and Zest basically over our arms, kind of. We were just like carrying him to the hotel.
Oh man.
And I was just like, you know, trying to walk.
Yeah, because you couldn't even walk properly, let alone carry Zest
so much
as
pain.
well.
It was so stupid. Yeah.
Oh my god, that's amazing. That's fucking hilarious. Well, that's a fantastic story to end on. So thank you so much, Mapu, for coming on the podcast. Good luck tomorrow.
Thanks for
Hopefully
having
it's gonna be some crazy games, and hopefully that all goes well. Yeah, thanks and good luck for tomorrow.
Yeah, thanks for having me, and I hope we're gonna see maybe a not Korean champion tomorrow.
Ooh.
I won't say any more though.
That's a spicy prediction. Spicy prediction. All right, I do hope so as well. All right, well, thanks, and good luck for tomorrow. See ya.
Thanks, see you.